At least 8 people were wounded and scores of buildings were damaged in a Russian air attack overnight in the Dnipropetrovsk region in Ukraine. According to Ukraine's Air Force, Russia targeted military and infrastructure facilities in the regional capital using 16 different types of missiles. However, Ukrainian air defenses brought down 20 Russian drones and 4 cruise missiles. The Russian Defense Ministry spokesperson has said that the military carried out a group strike with the long-range precision-guided weapons against targets in Dnipro airfield. They targeted that airfield when it comes to crippling the counter-offensive capabilities of the Ukrainian forces. Now, this comes ahead of Ukraine's counter-offensive. Russia has intensified its missile and drone strikes this month after a lull of nearly 2 months.
At night, the armed forces of the Russian Federation carried out a group strike with long-range, precision-guided, air-launched weapons against targets at the Dnipro airfield. The target has been reached, all assigned objects have been destroyed. As a result of the strike, hangars with weapon and ammunition, aviation equipment, as well as technical positions for preparing missiles were hit.
Mother was sleeping on the sofa and she was wounded. She was then taken by an ambulance to a hospital in Syankovo. Nobody, no resident here could have imagined in their worst dreams what happened here last night. We were all asleep when we were hit. Everything fell on our heads, on our children. I have a grandson that is 10 days old. 10 days. Him and another grandson that is 5 years old. The child woke up, all scared, and said, "Granny, our lives used to be so good." All this happened within 2 seconds. All our lives have been shattered. Our residents were woken up by a night explosion. Again, the Russian aggressors have targeted the civilian population.
The cost of war continues to rise, ladies and gentlemen, but Ukraine is fighting back. Now, joining me is Fred Weir, political analyst and Russian affairs expert. Mr. Weir, thank you for joining us on CNN News 18. Why, in your opinion, has the Putin war machine been unable to steamroll across Ukraine? It is a bigger and more robust military force. Western aid to Ukraine came much later, but in your opinion, did Putin underestimate a tenacious Ukrainian response?
I'm not sure that Russia is 10 times more powerful. I think the Ukrainian army in Ukraine is much bigger than the Russian army in Ukraine, and it's also armed by the United Countries of the West, of NATO. Ukraine has put up really solid resistance. The battle that just occurred or finished in Bakhmut, or Artyomovsk, as the Russians will call it now, lasted 224 days. It was really an awful slugging match. They seem almost equally matched. And so I think that this war is liable to go on for quite a lot longer, and we'll see more battles like that. It just is a deep, protracted, ugly war between two powers that are, well, maybe not equal, asymmetrically matched.
Right, Mr. Weir, like I was saying, the Western aid to Ukraine came much later. But in your opinion, is Putin facing a more robust counter-offensive in the coming days with the Ukrainian forces armed by the West?
I think the original plan, quite clearly, was to invade quickly, surround Kiev, and force a regime change, shock and awe. And it failed because of Ukrainian resistance and because the West stepped up and made very strong commitments to support President Zelensky and the Kiev government. And so the Russians, having realized their strategic mistake, withdrew from Kiev. And then they thought they would rather easily overrun the eastern part of Ukraine, or at least the Donbass. And once again, their calculations proved wrong. They didn't have enough troops. They didn't have coherent lines. So the Russian strategy is now in its third iteration, which is to fight Ukraine in an attritional form, to bash it out in battles like Bakhmut, let the Ukrainians take a lot of casualties, hoping that the mathematics, that is, that Russia is a bit bigger country, more populous country, more, and as long as Russia remains committed to the battle, to the war, they think they will eventually win.
Right. So you're saying Putin badly miscalculated. So is Ukraine now equipped to retake some of the invaded territories?
I think that the West is getting rather strung out and probably doesn't have enough to continue supplying Ukraine at the rate it has been doing. You know that Western military stockpiles are being drawn down. Ukraine doesn't have enough ammunition, and a lot of other things, armor that are being scraped together in the West and sent to Ukraine. But perhaps in the long run, if Russia maintains its economic potential, it is ramping up its military industrial complex almost to the levels they were in the Soviet Union in the past. It does have a deep pool of potential manpower, and they are recruiting and mobilizing them. So yes, I think that Ukraine doesn't has maybe enough for one more really big offensive, and if that fails, then I suspect the war will begin to wind down or end. But you know, we have to wait and see what happens. There is some major battles on the horizon coming up, and I think the results of those battles will tell us how this war is going to turn out.